So what was your first thought when you found out you were going to be a dad for the first time? So, because in our case, you were the one that turned around the stick for the first time. And so the positive.
Yeah. I think it was an oh shit moment, big time. And quickly that was then recovered, and I was experiencing a very strong sense of excitement. But initially it was an oh shit moment because...
Even though we wanted that baby.
Yeah, we wanted that baby, and we were talking about having that baby for a long time. I mean, this was like 6-7 years ago. But like the thing is that we decided that we wanted to have a baby. And then we had been trying for a couple weeks, not so long a time. But then people in my family got wind that we were thinking about having a baby. And they kind of convinced me that, you know, how you hear nowadays, like, oh, you're too young.
Maybe it's not the right moment.
Maybe it's not the right moment. Where are you at in your career? Are you financially secure? All this stuff. And that got to me. That had got to my head. And
you got cold feet.
And I got cold feet. And I basically said, because you're someone who's like, once you made a decision, like, there's no turning your mind.
I'm very...
which I massively respect from you, because you don't...
So, like, I think... To clarify, I think my personality is that I question myself a lot until I take the decision. Once I've taken the decision, I've already questioned myself, so there's no more questioning. I go ahead and that's it. Whereas I think you question yourself, you take the decision, and you still question yourself if it's the right decision.
Mm. Yeah, but more often than not, 9 times out of 10, once you made a decision, you like stick by your guns, and it's very difficult for you to...
Who?
You.
No, I'm saying me, I stick with my guns, but I think you still question yourself even after you've taken the decision. But,
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, also, like, back then I was, how old was I? 24? 24, and in UK culture at that time, like, 24 is...
you were 25.
25.
You were 26 when Ollie was born.
But, like, still, at that age, like, in the culture that I'm from, it's very much like, oh, you're very young, you have to have, like, all of your ducks in a row before you have a baby.
I think Spanish are the same.
Maybe Spanish are the same, but, I mean, you're still kind of, like, society pushes you to have kids later and to have XYZ number of things done before you actually make that massive life commitment to have a child. And that had got to me, and so we had a discussion, and I said, look, like, maybe we should wait a bit, like, you know, I'm trying to, like, build this business and stuff, like, I want to wait for that to happen, maybe, and then we'll see where we are.
And then I was like,
but by that time, you were just already knocked up, and so it was too late, and that had already, unbeknownst to us at the time, like, you was
it was Christmas time.
No takey backsies.
So no, meaning it was like beginning of December when I got pregnant. And then it was the 26th of December, so it was my birthday. And we were at your family's aunties and uncle's house, like celebrating Christmas on the 26th and stuff. And I kept feeling sick. I just kept not agreeing with food. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I didn't even think once that I was pregnant. That's how ignorant you are at the beginning. Or at least I was. I was massively naive. And I was like, oh, like, I'm someone anyways very sensitive with my stomach. I can eat anything, but if I don't know, if I'm not feeling completely right, then I'm easily...
Well, plus you're always told that, like, it's going to take ages to conceive
you're
as
told,
well.
so you hear so much that it takes a long time to get pregnant, that for me it was, like, impossible that in 2 weeks that we tried here and there, I was going to get pregnant. Anyways, so... it was the next day, the 27th, and we were like having lunch together at our house, and I was still not feeling so right. And I was telling Freddie, like, I don't feel so good. I feel all the time nauseous and stuff. Like yesterday, the day before, so on my birthday, we went out to have dinner. I can't remember with who.
I can't remember either.
We were like, I think friends. Could it be?
Friends, probably.
No, but I don't know if it was cousins or friends.
I don't remember.
Whatever. And then Freddie was like, well, and suddenly Freddie just says, like, maybe you should take a test, a pregnancy test. And I was like, what? Really? Like, and I was so like, it's impossible. I must have like a bug or something. And so I went to the co-op where we're
The
living,
co-op,
the
yeah.
co-op, to get a freaking pregnancy test, and the lady was looking at me like, you're pregnant.
Yeah, because you sort of
I just
spoke
like,
with her.
I was like feeling like, well, I have a guilty pleasure in Nutella that I try to avoid at all costs because otherwise I will eat the whole thing. And
Fuck
so I
out,
went
Gabby.
and I got a literal test and then bought a pot of Nutella, and she looked at me and she was like, you're pregnant. Like, she was blonde, I still remember her. And I was like, my own problem, thanks. And so I left, took the test, so pee on the thing, left it on the radiator next to the toilet, upside down, and went to shower, and I was like, it's going to be negative, I'm sick. I didn't even think I got Nutella, and that was not good because if I'm sick, you shouldn't be eating chocolate, but whatever. Go in the shower, and Freddie comes in and like, did you check the test? And I'm like, no, because it's probably negative, and I just thought I'm going to take a shower and then I'll check. And Freddie just turns around, looks at it, and is like, oh, like this, and I'm like, you're joking. I literally said,
You
you're
thought
joking.
I was taking the piss.
I was like, you're joking, because he's very jokey, sir, here. And I was like, no, he's just taking the piss. And I was like, what? He was like, no, it's positive. He was like, no, it's positive. And I was like, no, you're taking the piss, you're joking. So no, it's positive. And you turned around, it was positive. Like a mega positive, like that kind of positive that I must have waited enough for it to be like clear line.
There's no ambiguity there. No, it was super strong. But like I was
and
like,
like,
oh shit.
I was like, how are you feeling? That's the first thing I actually
you actually asked
it's
me.
like the
Like,
first
you were
thing I
worried
was
about
like,
me. You were worried about
how are
my
you
reaction.
feeling? I was just worried because obviously like you were the one who said, look, I changed my mind and I wanna wait. And so I was like, shit, like. And so yeah, the first thing I said, I think I didn't even have time to react on it because I was happy. I never got cold feet, but I wanted you to want it as well and feel ready. I knew you wanted it when we were trying, but I was like, if you're not feeling ready now, I'd rather wait. And so I was like, how are you feeling? And you were like, you looked at me and you were like, excited, very excited. That's what she said. And then I was like, I was like, wow, like, this is like, then I don't remember what I reacted.
Yeah, I think we just like,
I think we were just like happy.
We
were happy. Got out of the shower and just like processed it. And I remember that night I did not sleep well at all. I was like, it's such a life-changing thing.
Especially your first one.
It is, it's huge. And I was like, I remember like turning around and tossing around and not wanting to go on my belly, even though I was like just a few weeks pregnant, probably 4 weeks. I think I remember I went to Sainsbury's and got like the proper clear blue pregnancy test that says the amount of weeks that you're pregnant and everything. It said 4 to 5 weeks. I think something like that. And I was like just very, very happy, very worried about telling my parents. Funny enough.
Yeah, I was worried about telling my parents as well, but without going into too much detail, the one parent that we thought would be like difficult about it on my side was the one who was like super easygoing.
He's the one who I already.
Well, I'll say like cause I love my dad so much, but we always expected him to be a bit more like, oh, you're having a baby. Oh, are you sure? But like, actually, when we told him, he was basically like, Friday. It's like, oh, that's really good for you. I'm really happy for you guys.
I didn't think I was going to be a
grandfather
so young, something like that.
Yeah. And then it was my mum. My mum, we were sure was going to be like super happy, but then she was the one who was the most concerned about me. And she was very much like, oh, I don't know if he's ready for this. Then I was like, it was too late now, Mum, to make that decision. I mean, and at the end of the day, I mean, again, I was 25 years old, so I'm not a boy. I am a fully fledged adult man. But for sure, at that time, I was still kind of like trying to figure out stuff with my career and trying to see what I liked. And I had, I think I'd just finished my master's degree whilst working part-time, and I was working for part-time in a pub and also working part-time at a Triumph motorcycle dealership before that, and then I had started working at a PR company, and I hated that PR company, and it was a really nasty, toxic environment. They will not be named, But then it was just like I was still kind of like trying to figure out where I wanted to go with my life, and so like I was also the first of all my friends to have a baby, and so I had no real like sort of feedback from my friends or words of encouragement that it's going to be good, you're going to be fine, you're going to enjoy it. You know,
we had no one to consult apart from our parents.
Our
parents were the only people really. I mean, yeah, you have all the cousins that you could have, but I don't think you.
No, but it doesn't.
Even thought about it.
My cousins who had children were like 20 years older than me, so it's
not
more.
Recent.
So it's not like they're not in the same. You know, it's not the same generation. You know, and so like I had no one to kind of like lean on and be like, you know, how was this for you? You survived. Like, how did that go? And so, you know, I am now off being that point of contact for all of my friends who are in their 30s now and who are like starting this process of thinking about having children. And it's funny watching them go through the same mental hurdles that I went through at that time 6 years ago, 7 years ago, to kind of like come to that conclusion that actually, do you know what? Everything's going to be fine. Yeah. And it's going to be a good decision.
You adapt.
And you adapt. But like,
whilst it's something that you're happy about and that you want and that you accept in your life, it's always going to be fine.
But at the time, it was like, I mean, the initial reaction was like, oh shit. But then it was like very quickly replaced by like, oh, I'm super excited. You know, this is the woman of my dreams. We had just been married 4 months prior. And like, you know, you and I, we move things quickly when we want to go somewhere, you know. And you know, so I mean, but it felt very, it felt like the right thing to do.
I think when you find out, even if you're looking for that kid, to have that baby, I think it's inevitable to have that cross feeling when you learn that you're pregnant. You know,
Well, I had it with our second baby as well, and our third baby. Every time that, like, because it's still, you kind of like, you know,
it's a decision. It's obviously like you want it because you're obviously looking for it. It's not like oops situation surprise. No. It's like you're looking for it. But once it's done, and I think because in our case, I don't know, I can't talk for women that maybe have more struggles to get pregnant, but in our case, we got pregnant almost, I think, the 3 times on the month that we tried. And I think every time it's a bit of a shock because we're like,
oh, it happened really quickly.
Oh, wow, like we thought that this decision that we're taking was going to take a few months, or, you know, because obviously, like, you still think, even the first time it was even if the first time it was the first month trying, you think, oh, it's a one-time thing. It's not going to happen with the second one.
Some people, it takes a long time, but they say that, like, if you're in your like early 30s, it like 75-80% of people who are trying for a year will be pregnant in a year. But for us, it was in the
average time, I think it's a year. But yeah, and so it was kind of like it's a mixed feeling thing. I think for example, me as a woman, my perspective is I was really excited. I was very happy. I was a little bit worried to tell my parents just because. It's a life-changing event and you don't know how they're going to take it, if they're going to be acting worried about you or if they're going to be, oh, we're so excited, because I think deep inside of me what I wanted is to have that reaction, is like, oh, we're so excited, so cool, you know, it's an exciting thing in your life.
You can't plan how people will take it.
No, that's the thing, you need to let things go that are out of your control. That's something I've learned a lot also having kids. It's like when it's out of my control, I need to stop stressing about it. But like, yeah, so I was stressing a little bit about telling my parents. They reacted really well. But I think my dad was a bit shocked in the moment because he was like, whoa, like, you know, it's like my only girl.
Well, you were also 23.
Yeah, I was 23.
So that is, I mean, that's still very young.
But it's funny because my dad had me, he turned 22, so it was like he was young as well, do you know what I mean? It's not like he had his first child, he was 30 or 31 or 32, do you know what I mean? So, but still, he was like really happy and everything, but it was like a bit like a shock, do you know what I mean? But it was all good, and yeah, and then I think throughout the pregnancy you kind of are having like this like feeling of excitement and wanting to know about your baby and see your baby for the first time, but then you're a little bit also apprehensive of what's going to change, how is it going to change.
I mean, plus I was like, I'm a massive hypochondriac, so like every single test we had, I was like, is the baby okay? Is the baby okay? Is the baby okay? Is the baby okay? Is everything good? Like, how's it going? Like, and I was annoying all of the midwife, the sonographer technicians. I would be like stressing out, like,
you would be analyzing
what's
their
that?
face.
What's this? What's this? I'd be like, looking dead set in the eyes of the sonographer, like looking for any kind of like movement from them, you know. And I found it like super stressful. I mean, God, I mean, even the pregnancy itself, the actual delivery itself was another.
It's funny
because my God, I like aged 10 years. Like I went white hair everywhere because, like, this has been a sidetrack from this topic, but I think it's a funny story to tell, which is when Gabby was actually in delivery mode, basically with our first boy Oliver, she had a bad reaction to the epidural, which is like a really rare occurrence. It does happen, but it's a rare occurrence.
Most anesthesians,
I can't even pronounce it.
The people that put the anesthesia, they say that it's normal. Like you normally have a reaction where your heart rate goes down, but I think mine is exaggerated, so I generally lose consciousness.
Like no. It's like Gabby always like brushes over this fact, but this is what happened. So she was like kind of half asleep, and I was looking at the heart rate monitor that was connected to her. I was
not half asleep. I was feeling like
that was connected. She was half asleep because she was feeling not good, and it was the heart rate monitor. We were in like the delivery room actually.
Half asleep. I was not half asleep. Okay. I was not feeling good.
You were not feeling good, but you were like drowsy, and so like you had drowsy. So you had the heart rate monitor connected to you, and the heart rate monitor connected to the unborn Oliver, and I was just watching it, and I was like, just seeing the heart rate of both of them kind of like just slowly start ticking down. I'm like,
No, actually, all started. I told you.
And you said, I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling good. And I was like, okay. And I was like, just watching your heart rate take down.
And I remember I said to you, like, I can't hear you well, and I cannot see you well.
That was after. So I went out. So then I was looking at the screen thing, and I went out into like the command and control area of all the nurses. And I said, at that point, I had like no Spanish. And I said, perdona, creo es un problema con el corazón. And like, they probably looked at me like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Basically, which means, sorry,
I think there's a problem with the heart. And they were like, what? And then, so one of them came in, who actually was a student nurse, because it's a university hospital. And she just came in, looked at the screen, tapped it, was like, and then just went out like there was no problem. Meanwhile, the heart rate of Gabby and Oliver is still kind of chucking down quite low. And then Gabby said, I can't hear you, I can't see you well, like, I'm feeling not good, something's happening.
Yeah.
And then...
I don't remember anything
And then all the alarms went off in the room. Like, everything. Because her heart rate had gone below 50. I think it was like 48, 47, which is like... fine sometimes if you're sleeping, but like giving birth, not good. And
so
like
basically lower the amount of
no, it was I think it was like adrenaline fluid or something, but it was basically to get your heart rate back up again.
And then I just remember them doing this to my face and like, you okay? You're coming back. You're coming back. And so I just realized, and I had like loads of people around me, and I didn't really know how long. I thought it was a second, really.
It was like a good couple minutes, and
then I just kind of like came back, and I was like, yeah, I start to feel better, and then they came back and they were like, well, you know, your baby's heartbeat has gone down, yours too, but the problem is that if your baby's heartbeat has gone down the way it's done for you, it's quite distressing for the baby, and it's not really good. So we're gonna have to see in the next few hours how it goes.
So they're monitoring you, but then
exactly.
That's the problem was that the drugs that they gave you stopped your contractions. So the drugs that they gave you to bring you back on, they stopped your contractions. So we had a really drawn out delivery after that as well, where basically Gabby gave
When
birth.
did that happen? That happened. No. That happened in the afternoon, and I gave birth at midnight.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that because of the epidural, then the drugs they gave you to counteract the epidural, it stopped your contractions, which meant that when you were actually giving birth, you gave birth with almost no painkiller. Because
No, it
gave,
didn't remove the contractions. I think you're phrasing it wrong. What they did is they lowered the amount of anesthesia that I had. The epidural, the epidural was less strong, and so therefore when I was pushing, I felt genuinely like raw.
No, pushing. The problem. No. Like the drugs that they gave you to counteract the effects of the epidural, it stopped your labor. So it slowed your labor. So that's why you had a longer delivery time, which meant that if you remember, Oliver took a long time to come out, and they were worried about his head shape being like a sausage. But
he didn't, because he has such a strong.
No, he has a.
But listen,
but you don't.
The
remember,
fact is, you're connected to the epidural. You can ask for top ups.
No, I know that. I know it's a continuous thing. But what I'm saying is that they because of your reaction.
I don't think it was because of my reaction. I honestly think that often what happens when you get an epidural is that, and maybe it's interesting to have a doctor once in a podcast to actually say, the right thing. But often when you get the epidural, you stop having as frequent your contractions, and that's why they normally also add oxytocin to
maybe you're right, one or the other. But the problem was that whether it's the epidural or the drugs they gave you to bring you back around, one of those two things stopped your contractions. So that meant that you had a really long delayed labor, and they were discussing doing a C-section because it was getting so long that they were watching Oliver's heart rate, because he was in the birth canal for so long that he was getting distressed, and his heart rate was going up this time really high.
Well, how did you feel about that?
I was just stressing my ass out. I was just pulling my hair out, or going around I'm so out of, because I'm someone who wants to be in control of every single situation, and someone who I do get anxiety quite frequently, and the way that I try to fix that is to try to control the situation either by doing something or learning something about it. And so I have health anxiety, for example, massively. And so if I feel a twinge or something, I will go down a deep rabbit hole on Google of looking at my symptoms, but I'll go even further than that, is I'll look up medical journals on PubMed, medical analysis and everything. I'll be your fountain of knowledge for this random twinge. So friends come to me what's this, Freddie? I'm well, lucky for you, I've studied this extensively and I'm super OCD. So I went, anyway. So I have massive health anxiety, and so I was really stressing out about this, because not only did I watch my wife and unborn son basically what I thought die in front of me because your heart rate went so low that your heart was going to stop. Gabby just brushes over all of this. I think, I spoke with my uncle, who's a doctor in Canada, after this, and he was "Yeah, Freddie, that's fucked." And he said that it sounds awful. That should never have happened. And he said next time she should just have a C-section, because it will remove any risk. If I react
to the epidural, when you have a C-section is epidural. They put it. It's the same thing.
Maybe, but maybe they would put you asleep.
To me, it makes and it's been proven with the second child. When I was delivering Gail, I told them I have this reaction when I have the epidural. They were okay, no worries, we will be controlling that.
They did not care. Second time around. Basically the same thing was going to happen the same time around. It was going to
happen the same thing, but
even though we told them in advance.
I was stressed about it happening, so I started feeling not good.
And so we told them earlier.
I already felt what seemed to be the same feeling.
With the second birth, we had an even more fun experience, which is that basically, this is not to traumatize any expecting mothers here, or people think about getting
everything went well.
Everything went well, but almost every single pregnancy that I would say half the pregnancies that my friends have had, or people I know of recently, most of them end up in a C-section. Half of them have ended up in a C-section. Yes.
Well, I don't know. I just think
maybe that's normal. I don't know, but with Gail and the second birth, it was around 4:00. on the day of the due date, we'd been in hospital that morning to like check you out, and they sent us home because you weren't dilated enough.
Let me explain really what happened. I had monitoring in the morning.
Yeah.
And I had to wake up early, and I was the whole night with contractions. Like I was genuinely, I think I was starting labor, and I was sure I was going to give birth that day because I was like, it's impossible. It was so constant, the contractions. And so I get ready, and I think it was my personality where I get in this mode where, okay, I'm not feeling so good, but it doesn't matter. I need to get my things done. So I went to monitoring and stuff. My contractions left. They were all gone. And I went to my nurse. They were like, "Oh, you're dilated. I think 2 centimeters, which is nothing." And so they were like, "Just go back home and wait for you to have like your contractions back, or have more contractions, and then you can come back." And so I went back home, and I was like, so basically with Oliver, because I went to the hospital once, I was having really severe contractions, I was in pain, and I was not super dilated. They said to me, just go back home. And so this time with the second child, I just didn't want to have that experience again. So going and being sent back home. So I was like, I'm not budging from this house. I'm not going until I know I'm going to be ready to push. Which is not good either, but like I was like, I don't know, it's not, the hospital is like what, 20 minutes away, which is not super far away, but I was like, I'm not doing all the way there in a car where you're like this and having contractions and then having to be sent back, so whatever. And when I'm not feeling good, and I like to be at my parents, so they live in the same neighborhood, and so I was like, and we didn't have AC back then, and I was like,
air conditioning.
Yeah, air conditioning. And so I was like, I want to stay in my parents' living room with air conditioning and my mom taking care of me. So my grandma was here as well, so my dad's mom. And so I was there having my contractions, trying to kind of like move positions.
And I was here in the home office working.
He was working in the.
And then I get a
like,
call.
Oh, we're next door, so if you feel like you need to go, you just call me. Well,
and then I get
what
a call.
happens is he gets a call from he gets a call from me.
In tears.
I'm basically crying because I have a huge hemorrhage. I'm bleeding out, but it was like not bleeding a bit. It was like proper blood and coagules. Like, how do you know? Like clots of blood. And I was like, oh my God, I'm losing my baby. The first thing I thought is I'm losing my baby. I think that's my worry. I swear, I've never once thought something's happening to me.
I've never seen you so scared.
I was like just scared I was losing my baby, and I was like, what's happening? Is this even normal? And so at that moment, my mom was not there because she had to pick up Oliver at the preschool because obviously I was having contractions. I didn't feel like I could drive. So she left, and my grandma was with me. And so I'm like, you need to go pick up Freddie. I'm really not okay and stuff. I need to go to hospital. My grandma just flew.
Yeah, she drove
she drove like a racer, and she got here. She got you, drove back down. You picked me up. I had a towel around me.
Put you in the back of the car. Because I said call the ambulance.
No, but I was like, hello, we are in Spain, and I no criticism, but like, you are faster by going yourself to the hospital than waiting for an ambulance.
But
and I was like, whoa.
I was driving flat out, and like we did encounter a tad of traffic, a little bit of traffic.
You were beeping for people
I was like beeping for people to get out of the way. And then we called your dad on the way, who met us. He was luckily actually in the town.
Well, he works, and he was working not far away from there, so I called him as I was leaving the house.
He got there, parked his car. We went to
emergency.
He took our car, and then I tried to go in with you, but they wouldn't let me go in.
No, no. What I think they did. Yeah, true. They didn't let you go in for some reason.
No, they didn't let me go in because they were like no.
Anyway, so I was sat in a wheelchair because I couldn't really walk because I could feel the blood coming out, and I was like, I need to just be sat down. So, anyways, they sat me on a rolling chair, and on a wheelchair. And when I get to the actual area where they need to check me and stuff, I remember I was so shocked because I was worried obviously about my baby. I just wanted to know that the heartbeat was good because I couldn't feel him moving anymore. And the lady goes and says from her waiting room whatever. She's like, well, she can wait. And the lady was like, no, she's really bleeding. Like, you need to take her.
One nurse said
the nurse that was inside doing the checks into triage. She said she can wait, and the lady who was pushing me, the nurse that was pushing, she was like, no, she's really bleeding. She's in delivery, and she goes and says, well, she was able to wait and drive all the way from her house to here, so she can wait now. And I was like, crying, like, why are you so insensitive, seriously? And so in the end, the nurse that was pushing my wheelchair, she was honestly like an angel. She pushed for it. She was like, no, you're taking her now. She's literally, proper full of blood.
That's so messed up.
And so I got in, and I was like,
but this is the part I find,
like this. And she was like, what's happening to you? Like this, very calm. And I was like, well, I've been having contractions since last night. I had monitoring this morning, and now I'm bleeding. And I've had contractions from this since I came back from monitoring. And yeah, so, and I'm worried about my baby. I really want you guys to check if the baby's okay and stuff. And so from there on, she saw I had a thick towel, and I was really like, and she like full of blood, and so she instantly then drove me in. And as she's driving me in, my nurse that was driving me and pushed for triage, she's like, hi, because there was like all nurses and like doctors. No, there was no doctors. It was all nurses and like midwives and stuff like that. Where in the center, there's like a center reception area, and then you have the rooms around in a circle. And they were all chatting and stuff. And the nurse is like, "Hi, there's a girl who's bleeding, and she's in labor. Someone needs to check her right now." And they kept talking, and I was like looking like this, saying like, "What?" And really, because I was so worried. I didn't have the way to react, and I have often this way. And on the moment, I don't have the words, and then I think, and then I'm more like. I come back with like more strength, but on the moment I was so shocked and really worried about my baby that I didn't say anything. Otherwise, I would have said, move your ass."
Yeah.
But no. And so the nurse was like, "Hello, I'm saying there's a girl who's in the delivery and she's having a hemorrhage." And so they all stood up instantly, and they took the towel away, checked everything, and they were like instantly like, "Oh, your baby's okay. You've just like ruptured one little blood vessel. It's fine, you can have a normal delivery even with this hemorrhage." And so I was instantly relieved, and I was fine. And then I was able to change myself because I was obviously covered in blood, and they made me like clean myself and stuff, and they changed my clothes, and then I was able to call you and say, "Hey, my husband's waiting outside."
Me and your dad came, and they wouldn't say anything to us. We asked them, "Hello, is she okay?" Knocking at the door.
Nothing.
A nurse would come and she would say, "It's better." Like, wait, wouldn't say anything. Me and your dad are like, "What the fuck is going on?" And it was, I'm sorry, but like, my experience with these hospitals is 50% of them are really insensitive, 50% of them are angels.
Really good.
And I don't know why that's the case. Maybe it's because they're like conditioned to have bad experiences with people. I don't know. But like it really the level of like me and your dad,
super worried.
The two men who probably care about you the most in the world, standing outside the delivery place, barred by a big door. When we would press the buzzer, basically a woman would come to us to kindly F off.
Yeah.
And wait.
Yeah, it's not very sensitive.
It was extremely insensitive. And bear in mind, this was a good sort of 35, 40 minutes after you had gone in there. So I assume by that time they kind of knew that everything was okay.
Yeah, it's a bit insensitive.
And it was very, very stressful for us.
I just think it was obviously like these two deliveries were 2019, so right pre-COVID. It was quite different.
No, COVID had a massive impact on it.
Then
because, like,
the second one was 2022.
Did you give birth with a mask on?
Yes.
Yes, you did. You did. With Ollie.
Did.
Yeah, you did.
I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I can't breathe.
Because actually, I remember at the time with Ollie, they said, "Oh, your husband will not be allowed inside the delivery room."
No.
Oh,
Ollie
no.
was born way before COVID. It was with Gail that for a while through my pregnancy, there was this question of, is your husband going to be allowed in or
but
not?
some people gave birth
by themselves.
I remember that.
With no husband in there, which is cruel as hell.
Yeah.
Like, it's already a very vulnerable moment for a woman. It's not it's not a joke to give birth. Again, it's like, I know I said in the first episode, it's not a joke to be pregnant, but it's not a joke to give birth, because it still is, even though it's super controlled and everything, it still is a bit of a huge process for your body. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so feeling like you have no support in there, just the medical team is not ideal.
Like,
but anyways, you were in. Then they let you in, and then we had a few more like
minor
worries, but everything ended up being well. So my main issue is that I take a long time to dilate, and then once I dilate, I do 3 pushes and the baby's here.
Yeah.
No episiotomy.
Both boys were once it was go time for real. Both boys were
generally I pushed for like
10 minutes.
10 minutes,
yeah.
I think 10 minutes, and then they come.
Yeah.
But so I'm really lucky in that regard. I just think that with this third baby, I have had a lot of questions. I still have a lot of questions in my mind about if I want to go to a private hospital or a public hospital. I gave birth of my 2 boys in the same place, and I just tend to feel very, even though I've had these little like experiences where I felt it could have been a bit more, medical team could have been more sensitive, or more ready to listen.
Yes, more respectful
ready, exactly,
of your
with
feelings.
Gail, as I was saying, because of my reaction to the epidural, I told them really quickly on, I can feel something, I can sense something.
But we told them also in advance.
Yeah, no, I told them in advance.
Weeks in advance.
No, I told them in advance. I didn't have a anesthesia meeting because it was COVID and they cancelled it. But I did tell them when I was obviously ready to like start my labor. I told them this about the epidural. They told me, oh, it's fine, it's under control. You can still, because I was questioning if I should get it or not, or do it without epidural. And they were like, no, it's fine, we're going to have it under control, don't worry. And so then when I started not feeling good, I was like, I'm not feeling good. I can sense it's the same thing I had with my firstborn. Can you please call someone or check, because I can feel my heart slowing down. And they checked, and I think I called them 3 times, and they checked, no, it's fine. And on the 4th time of me being really annoying, being like, I'm seriously starting to feel not good, they checked and were like, oh yeah, actually your heartbeat is going down. Actually, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so they called the anesthesia person, because we don't know how to pronounce it.
Anesthetist.
Can you please check it out from Google whilst I explain? Anyway, so they called him. The time he came on, in the end, he just did basically without me going to the extent of what happened when I was pregnant with Oliver, where I lost consciousness and everything. He was able to just squeeze that slime bag and remove some of the already epidural I had in my body to make it much lower. And from there on, I was so much better. I could feel pain, but not as bad as if I had no drugs inside of me.
Anesthesiologist.
Whatever, specialist in anesthesia.
God, this is terrible.
Not an easy
job to say. This person. Wait, loading.
You're gonna make the speaker go on.
Yeah.
Anesthesiologist. Okay, now I know. Anesthesiologist. Is this an English teaching? Anyway, so after the anesthesiologist came, fixed everything, I felt so good, and then I didn't have any top-ups of epidural at all. So by the time I gave birth of Gail, I had Gail on me, and I was like, I need to pee, I need to stand up, I need to pee, because I didn't want that cannula, because basically when they do the anesthesia, they don't allow you to stand up anymore, because in my case, I could feel my legs, but they want to prevent you falling down if you are not fully in control of your legs. And so they basically put a cannula for you to pee. But it's just, I had such a bad memory of it with Oliver that I was like, because by the time I need to pee, I have not much anesthesia anymore in my body, and then it hurts. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's painful. It's a little tube going in your pee-pee area. So I was like, I didn't want it, and they were like, no, we can do the canyon, and I was like, no. How long until I can stand up? And they were like, well, I was like, I can prove you, I can stand up. I had no more, I could feel everything. I remember feeling so much that I was like, they were like, push. I was like, I'm gonna tear. I literally feel like I'm gonna tear. And they were like, no. If you stop when I tell you, you won't tear. And I remember that because I was like, it really, I can feel everything. So I think that's what this pregnancy I kind of want is to, if I go to the private hospital, which we can now because we have also a private health insurance, so we do both public and private. And this is not a dig on the public, because I'm very supportive of the public healthcare. I think it's amazing. I love it. I love the fact that we have that service in Europe, and I would, I happily pay my taxes for it. I'm very happy of how everything went in the end with my boys. They were both healthy and all that stuff, but I felt not heard. And I think that's what hurt me the most, because when it was the firstborn, it's because you're the first time mom and you don't really
know. But even with Ollie, they didn't listen. They didn't listen during the time when you were about to feeling with the reaction to the epidural. But then they also didn't listen postpartum. Yeah, and they didn't listen when Ollie was like trying to feed, but you weren't having any milk coming through.
It took like four days.
So he was like you were like, something's wrong, because he's just feeding all the time, and you had very sore breasts from that, and he wasn't. Normally babies will eat and then go to sleep, and then eat and go to sleep, but your milk wasn't coming through, and you knew that, and you kept saying to the nurses, like, can
I have some support?
Can I have some support?
Can you please help me and give my baby just a bit of
formula,
and
they were like, no, just keep going.
And they were like, no, you need to keep going, this is normal. And I was like, but I had raw nipples at the beginning. They were super
and
my baby, out of 24 hours of the day,
lost a third of his body weight.
21 hours on my boob,
and he lost a third of his body weight.
He lost so much weight, and he started having jaundice.
He was yellow,
and so that made them do like twice the test of the heel test that they do. Before it was the heel test, and now it's heel test, but in the middle, whilst my son was born, they for some reason changed and did it on the hands. They bruised his hands
trying
so badly.
Stuff a needle into his wrist. I remember they because I was with him when they were doing this.
Awful.
They pushed his hand back like this, trying to cut off the blood circulation, and then jammed a needle in his wrist, trying to get his blood out. But his liver wasn't working because he had no food, and he was basically starving for 24 hours.
So the thing is that they were saying, oh, you get colostrum and that's enough. It's very, very rich in nutrients
and calories.
But I was like, no, I can sense there's something. I can sense like my body needs a bit longer to get milk. It was my first baby, and I just want some help and not feel so. I couldn't sleep because I had my baby.
It was very.
And I didn't feel heard, and that's the result of it. And then I had to fight with my second child as well to get that formula until my milk came in.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, on the second one, I did not
mess about.
I was like, you give me that freaking formula, or I'm about to whatever.
Crack some skulls.
Anyway, so they did that, and it was better, and I was a bit more experienced. I was a bit louder.
I just don't understand why they don't listen, and it's like, I think a lot of the nurses there, particularly at this hospital, they are kind of old school. They are older ladies, a lot of them. It's quite rare you get a younger lady, a nurse.
I mean, I don't remember back then. Maybe you're right. Maybe
back
then they were a bit older. Now there's a lot of younger.
Yeah, well, back then there was a lot of older ones, so like they were very much like in the way of them doing it. But it's like, for example, in our business, like the worst thing you can do is basically say like, I know everything. You don't know anything, and you don't listen to the client, or you don't listen to the person.
Their worries, to their
or like what they experience inside of their business. Like you need to listen to people, and you
I think there's
don't know
sometimes
everything all the time. It was so.
I think they forget sometimes that, you know, in this case, a mum is a mum, and you have an intuition. And I would say trust your intuition and trust yourself. You're the mom.
It was
Nobody's
so
gonna know
frustrating.
better how you feel, or what's happening with your baby, or what you sense that your baby's going through than you. So if you feel
100%.
that way, and if, for example, you feel your kid needs a test for some reason, you insist to get that freaking test until you get the test.
I agree with you, and actually and so we live in Spain, obviously, but like the NHS, the UK health system is like, if you look at anything online with any of their like kid stuff, right? Oh, my kid has a fever or whatever. They always list like, okay, when do you call your doctor, or when do you make that decision to go to accident, emergency, or whatever? And I love it because every single time they say, you feel something's wrong.
Yeah, if you feel something's wrong.
You as a parent feel something wrong. And that is one of the points. Yeah. If the parent feels something's off, they say that is something to listen to as a doctor. Whereas
you know your kid.
I love Spain. I love the Spanish healthcare system. Most people working in it are like super really lovely and really good and very specialist, but sadly,
there are some exceptions.
There are some exceptions, and the experiences that we had.
We've had also bad experiences in the UK, not for anything, but I mean, they told me I had a tumor in my head and I didn't.
Yeah, that was extremely odd.
No,
like Gabby didn't have her parents.
This is meaning like it happens in every country. Doesn't matter.
Well, one of the reasons could be that you have a pituitary gland tumor.
No, they said that you probably have a tumor in your head and you won't be able to ever have kids. And
no scans, no tests. It was the first meeting we had with your GP.
No, it wasn't the first meeting. It was because I was missing my periods for 3 months because I was stressed.
Yeah, and she said, maybe you have a tumor. What? Why did you say that? It was not
even maybe. She said, most probably you have a tumor.
Why would you say that?
I came out, Freddie was like...
I was like, that's fucking
weird. Anyways, going back onto the third baby, as I was saying, I think I want to try this time to go private because up to now I've been doing both. I'm following with both, private and public. And I feel heard in the private. I've said I have this issue with the anesthesia, with the epidural. I've spoken about it with my gyno. She said, don't worry, we're going to schedule a meeting for you to have with the epidural specialist.
Anesthesiologist.
The anesthesiologist.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't remember anymore. The specialist. And you will be able to voice your concerns about it, and we can obviously look into the possibility of adding you having less epidural and therefore maybe having no reaction.
Or just YOLO it like my cousin did and have no painkillers.
I'll see how I feel. I think I have no plans.
I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
I think they just anyway, so I think I wanna try that. I think I have a really good friend of mine, she gave birth not long ago, in the same hospital where I wanna give birth. And she had a good experience, and and she said they were very chill afterwards as well. And I know someone else who gave birth as well there, and she said, they were not judgy. I was unsure if I wanted to breastfeed or not. She told me.
I personally think we should do it. And they were like,
you have to do what makes you feel better as a mum, because if you feel good, then the baby feels good. I've never heard that. When I gave birth the last 2 times.
They were like, you're done, go in this room and
wait. They were like, bad if you were not breastfeeding. I want to breastfeed, but you never know. Like, I had a breast augmentation two years ago, and even though they're very small and you can't really, like, notice too much, I know that because of the breast augmentation
there's a chance
I may not be able to breastfeed, even though I breastfed my 2 other kids, and I would love to breastfeed my daughter. Yeah. But we'll see. It's it's not gonna change anything about how
you view yourself
how I view myself as a parent at all. I think well, if I can't breastfeed, then I'll be able to give the bottle, and Freddie then will be able to maybe be a bit more involved.
Freddie will be able to breastfeed.
Freddie will be able to breastfeed. Anyway, so that's a bit like the reason why I'm looking into going to the private healthcare this time.
Plus, the big benefit of the private.
No! Don't say it! Don't say it! I know what he's going to say.
Is that I won't get a little blue chair. I'll actually have a bed, because every single time, the 2 times we've had children, I end up having to sleep in a little blue chair in this corner of the room for like 3 days, and I end up coming out of the hospital feeling like I've just been hit by a train. And of course, yes, my wife has just given birth. Very you know, traumatizing and impact on her body, etc., etc. But it's important for the father to feel well rested, and so I can support my wife. And the blue plastic chair does not do it for me. And so I'm very happy to go with the private healthcare because I get my own bed next to you. I can feel well rested. I can support you as my wife. Happy days.
The second born, you were one night with me. The next night,
well, yeah, one night. But I had to go home and look after Oliver.
Yeah, we it's not that we didn't. I mean, we had my parents, but I felt like it was already enough change for my little Ollie, big Ollie now. You know, that I didn't want him to feel like he was left out because obviously, like, we never at that point when I was giving birth of Gail, we've never been separated from Oliver ever, not even one night. And it was his first night with his grandparents, even though he sees them every weekend. And I was like, okay, one night is enough. Like, just go, I'll handle it and stuff. I remember suffering because I was so tired and being like, I can't fall asleep with my baby on top of me, otherwise I don't know if he's gonna fall and stuff, but it's like, it's a very tiring, intense moment, but it's such a beautiful moment.
The first week is just very intense, but it is beautiful and, like, you know, it's just a magical experience, and I'm super proud of you because you handled both of them like a champ. Like, she's literally a natural born mum. Like, Gabby's just like, when Ollie was born, like, Gabby was like instantly like, boom, into it, like, here's the baby, I've got all the things laid out, I know how to change nappies, I'm going to do all this stuff. And again, like, no nurses came to be like, this is how you do this, or this you how you do that. They were just like, go into your room, and we kind of had other things to do with. And so it was like very much dropped in at the deep end of things. And this was the August before COVID went widespread. So
in March the following year.
Well, COVID started coming out in December. But like, with me though, I remember I was scared to pick up Ollie. I was like,
for a whole month actually.
I was like terrified.
It took you a month
it took me a month to like really.
He was actually telling me this a lot. He was like, I'm so worried to hurt him, and I was like, babies are way more resilient than you actually think. They're way more resistant, and like, it's fine. You can take your baby.
I was like, I loved my son, and I was like,
good dad. You're like, honestly, I just think you were. You're a man, and you're also like the eldest, but like you're a boy. I'm the eldest, but I'm a girl. So, and I always kind of like, I think I always looked at my mom on how she did stuff at least with my youngest brother, because I'm 27 months apart from my middle brother. And I remember that, and I just was not a Barbie girl. I was always like a baby born kind of baby girl. Like, I was kind of like always into playing mother. Like, and it's funny because I've always wanted to be a mum, but I always felt it was not the only thing in my life. I had very clear I wanted to work, and I wanted to continue working. And I actually the two births I've had, I didn't really stop working. I was a bit more slow for a month, but I didn't stop working. And I think that's a big mental thing.
You had like a week of maternity leave or something like that. Like, you took a week or two off. I mean, fair enough. But like, Gabby was back at work, and like, because we're obviously business partners as well, and that's something we'll go to later on in podcasts.
I mean, we mentioned it.
But we mentioned it before, but like, we kind of skimmed over it. But like, we're obviously business partners and stuff, and we have been for like close to a decade. But like, she is literally like the boss bitch, but like in a good way. You know, she doesn't mess around, and like, I think the quintessential example of that is the fact that you had a 2-week-old in one hand, laptop in the other.
Yeah, I was breastfeeding,
and you were doing your thing, and so like, I always have massive respect for you.
I think I just like, it's a mental thing again. I think I felt like I needed to go back on work.
Plus, you like it
because I love I love it. That's what I'm saying, is I love it, but I think it gave me that balance of not, and I think this is what we're going to touch up in our next podcast, is how you feel once you've given birth. What are all the impacts and changes, and how you process every emotion as a woman and as also a man, husband and wife. I think this is a very important topic and very, very interesting topic. But I think it was my way to find balance, to not feel lost in just being a mum and that's it. I felt like if I continued working, everything was kind of staying the same. I just had an add-on. Do you know what I mean? And that's very much my personality. I think I just carry on with everything, and I have more responsibilities, but it's fine because I kind of like adapt. I don't. My problem is if I get something new and I just have to forget everything else and just focus on the new, because I feel like I'm not responding to other responsibilities. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. Anyways, I think that's a good place to end it, and for you to have a bit of an idea of the next podcast. And hopefully we have been fun enough to watch.
Thanks so much for watching.
Birth stories.
Gory birth stories. Hope we don't terrify you. It's fine. It's going to be fine. And also, men, don't settle for a blue chair. If you have an option, get a bed. See you in the next one.
Bye.